Hi everyone, my name is Jenny Miner McCombs, the Addict Empath, and I want to start this narrative out by admitting firsthand that this is a completely impulsive, unscripted, and raw narrative that I'm sharing with you, and I don't have a lot of time. When I was preparing to give my first TEDx talk entitled The Illusion of Accountability in Our Changing World Through the Eyes of an Addict, I had told the world that I would do anything to make my voice heard. At that point in my life, it was a great price to pay. I'd lost my family, I'd lost my marriage, I'd lost so much in my life that I had wanted to bring purpose to my pain. I said that I would do anything to make my voice heard, and that I would. Now, my talk has not gone live yet to YouTube or the TED channel. I've been assured tentatively that it's merely days away from going live. And I told the world a secret, and I wanted that secret to be something that the world could learn from. As an addict, and as someone who openly identifies as someone who suffers from a very real physiological brain disorder known as addiction and substance abuse disorder. Furthermore, I want to tell you right now, in real time, I have no degree of strength within me that is propelling me to put myself in front of this screen to tell you what I'm about to tell you. The reason I am in front of this screen is because of my weakness, because of my vulnerabilities. I told the world proudly that I was sober, that I had embraced a life of sobriety, and that is true. I thank my higher power every day that I am sober from oxycodone, that I am sober from Xanax, that I am sober from Adderall, and that I am sober from Ambien. I'm grateful every single day that protective barriers have been put in place for me so that I do not fall into my illness. I recently admitted to a friend and a colleague. Her name is Laura Hennings, and she recently completed a fabulous TEDx talk that brought me hope. And this is where the reality of my addiction and my illness comes into play. You see, yesterday, I overdosed, and I abused a medication that was over the counter. All it was ibuprofen with diphenhydramine. Not enough to cause me a great deal of pain. No, I'm wrong about that. Not enough to cause me a great amount of damage physically. Not enough to hinder me and my capabilities. But my narrative. The second voice in every addict across the globe. The same voice. The destructive narrative that identifies what it means to be an addict has been roaring loudly in me. And Laura called it in her talk that we could amplify our voice into a rampant roar. And I said to her, my narrative is my rampant roar. And it is incredibly difficult to quiet and incredibly difficult to repress. And when I made that video, I felt proud of myself. But within hours the next day, when I compulsively abused this over-the-counter antihistamine, my second voice won. And my second voice punished me and blamed me. And my second voice won that day. And I want to tell the world right now that my passion is fueled not because I am proud enough to tell the world that I am sober and that I have conquered my illness in its entirety, because that is an illusion. Once an addict, once your mind is damaged, you are always an addict. And I'm admitting to the world, holding myself accountable. And I held myself accountable in my first TEDx talk that has not gone live. And I want you to watch it when it does, because I am sick. I never know when I am passionate enough to push myself forward, or whether I am distraught enough to push myself back. And everything that I do in my life, I have to work harder for it. And I want to share with you what the 36 hours, what the 48 hours has looked like for me ever since I thanked Laura for her powerful message. I overdosed on this over-the-counter medicine that immediately fueled my narrative. And I immediately started punishing myself and telling myself how weak I am. And that battle lasted for hours and hours and hours, pushing me into my narrative, pushing me into my illness. And I fought that all night, and I fought it into the night, and I couldn't sleep, and I had to go to work the next morning because I am a healthcare professional. And while I was not hindered physiologically, while I was capable physiologically to do my job in a very hard and demanding job, all day long, I pushed back my tears, and I pushed back my frailty, and the very same words that I told Laura haunted my own mind. And the reality is, when you're an addict, you can so often draw inspiration from yourself. And I can't tell the world how many times I've done just that when I don't recognize myself the next day. And when I don't know who I am, because I don't recognize that person that I was the day before. Despite the fact that I am actively in the process of applying for my second TEDx talk for TEDx SUNY Upstate, when I heard that their theme was Voices Unheard, that sums up my advocacy right there. And I want more than anything to attend that talk, because my voice was not heard, and it cost me everything. And because my voice was not heard all those years ago, I am reliving trauma. I am reliving flashbacks and PTSD. And my trauma is pushing me into my illness. And I am doing what addicts all over the world instinctively do by pushing others away. And they want to be by themselves when they mess up and when they're full of shame, just like I was. And it doesn't matter whether it's methamphetamine, alcohol, coke, marijuana, heroin, or a few tablets of antihistamine at the local Walmart. My narrative is the same. And yesterday, I was being triggered left and right, inside of rooms and outside of rooms, and I crouched in a supply closet and wept bitterly, and my own thoughts flashed in my mind, and I felt like a childish hypocrite. And I need your help, because I don't have resources. I don't have time. But I have all the passion that I need to carry this movement that I'm about to tell you now. My wellness blog is called Drowning in Madagascar. And nobody really knows, except for me at this point, just what that means, to drown in Madagascar. I was holding it close to me for the sake of anonymity and mystique. But I don't think I can do that anymore. I'm going to tell you what it means to me to drown in Madagascar so you can help me share my message. I was inspired by the words of a woman named Nora last year, shortly after the birth of my advocacy. And I have been writing to her. And because I am alone and vulnerable and scared in my life with not a lot of immediate family resources, I have been holding myself accountable to Nora for months and months and months. The third book in my series is called Dear Nora. And in a vulnerable moment several months ago, I made a recording to her. And I said, a lot of people don't know this, Nora. This reference I'm about to tell you means everything. Because when I was bulimic, and I wept, and I sobbed, and I gathered my breath, I said, when I was bulimic, my favorite ice cream was Madagascar vanilla and bittersweet chocolate. And I drowned in it, Nora. I drowned in it. I was drowning in Madagascar. 7 years of bulimia and anorexia and body dysmorphic disorder. I am no longer in the throes of my eating disorders, but addicts find a way to self-sabotage, not because they want to, but because the narrative. My third book in my series is called Dear Nora, and I am referring to none other than Nora Valco, the director of the Institute of Drug Abuse, who raised a profound call to action last year, shortly after the birth of my advocacy. And I quote that call to action in my first TEDx talk, which is yet to go live, when she said, we need a social movement. We need a large-scale social movement to change public opinion about what it means to suffer. Because we need more than just knowledge of the physiological symptoms and the physiological degradation of our minds. The world needs to have empathy. Because when I made that video to you, Laura, I felt inspired and passion. I felt faith in my deity and purpose. But the reality is, for me, the next day, I was crying in a supply closet, punishing myself. And I could not think. Because even though I am sober from polypharmacy, just taking a few pills of antihistamine, I was a slave to the cognitive deficits of my mind. And I walked around and I ran around and I could not remember. I forgot things almost instantaneously. My mind felt as if it was short-circuiting. And I cried, and I was scared, and I was panicked. I work in healthcare, and I have seen the repercussions of COVID-19. I transitioned into acute care on the onset, and as a nurse's aide, I have seen death, I have seen suffering, I have seen people lose hope. I have seen people drown, literally, in the degradation of their own physiology as fluid fills their lungs and it leaves them to feel as if they are suffocating, as if they are drowning. And I have seen people drown in their own physiology. But the statistical trajectory and the data is well documented that the repercussions of this global pandemic, a repercussion that I have seen as our mental health patients arrive in triage bays suffering domestic abuse, drug overdoses, suicidal and homicidal ideation. A statistical trajectory that I've seen firsthand, with people all over the world coping in the best way that they know how. And that's why the social movement that I'm proposing to you in my passion, that is fueled by my weakness and fueled by my candor and fueled by the impulsivity that defines who I am as a person, and not the impulsivity that the world judges me for because I am an addict. Hashtag, are you drowning? There have been so many social movements throughout the years. Me Too, Black Lives Matter, Vanessa Guillen. My social movement is this. Hashtag, are you drowning? Because you are. People are drowning. As COVID numbers decline, the repercussions of our psychological health will rise. And so I'm asking you, what are you drowning in? Do you know someone who is drowning in domestic violence, who is drowning in eating disorders, who's drowning into a bottle of antihistamine, as I have? And I want to tell you, help me start this social movement. I have big plans, big dreams, and big ideas, but I need the help of the world, and I need you to help me with this movement because I suffer from addiction, and I can't consistently be my own best friend. I was my enemy yesterday, and who knows what I will think of myself tomorrow. And that's why I need you to share this message. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Instagram. Make it a TikTok. Share it on Facebook. Share it wherever you can. Because people are drowning. And I impulsively stepped in front of the camera to make a change for good in the world. I had two choices when I took a handful of antihistamine a couple hours ago. My narrative was starting to fire, and all I wanted to do was curl up in a ball and fight the narrative. But I said, I want to bring purpose to it. That's what I'm doing right now. Help me start this movement. My name is Jenny Minor McCombs. I am the Addict Empath. And Nora, dear Nora Valco, the director of the Institute of Drug Abuse, I speak to you directly, and anyone else who hears this message, help me find you. Help me find Nora Valco and help me connect to her. I gave her a gift several months ago. It was a necklace. It was an emblem. And it was a token. And I told her that it would have meaning. I have no idea what's going to come of this message, Nora Valco. But months ago, I said, I have the faith to know that you will respond. And I extend an open invitation to you, Nora Valco, to help me co-write my narrative. Help me co-write the third installment in the Drowning in Madagascar book series, Dear Nora. Because I have already told you so many of my secrets. I told you before anyone else in the world what it meant to drown in Madagascar vanilla and bittersweet chocolate. And I know in your call to action you said that we needed more. But more than that, I have been telling my children, and I have been joking facetiously, that I would reach out to you one day and prove to the world that I am damaged in my mind. I said, I'm going to ask Nora Valco to take images of my brain, to research my brain, to prove that the degradation is real. Because I have memory lapses, judgment lapses, impulsivity lashes, and repercussions of my disease that haunt me and affect me to this day. I know there is degradation. I want you to help me prove it. I don't mind exclaiming to the world that I am brain damaged if it will save a life, if it will inform others, if it will educate people in the physiological and psychological capacity that I suffer. And shortly after I delivered my first TEDx talk, which has not yet gone live, I heard your second passionate call to action, that we needed radical change. And that radical change could be implemented in small ways by everyday people. And now I want to dedicate the next segment of my impulsive speech to TEDx SUNY, upstate New York. I have no idea what's going to come of this message, but when I submitted my application video narratives, I didn't give them an outline, and I didn't tell them what my big idea was. The big idea that defines anyone who wants to be on that big red dot. And to the organizers of TEDx SUNY Upstate, this is my big idea. The lessons I learned in the outline of my second talk were learned in a period of sobriety for me, of strict sobriety. And the repercussions of the stigma that I will overcome and view with you in my narrative was because of the stigma of the fact that I am an addict. And the 4 steps that I want to share are steps that are found within society itself. And I'll tell you what they are. Step 1. I'll tell you that person who said what step 1 is in my talk. They said, listen to our stories. Listen to our voices. Someone had asked this person that I'll name, what can we do to stop this epidemic? And he said, listen to us. And I'll tell you the rest in my TEDx talk. Step 2. Courage is beautiful. If people can recognize that courage is beautiful and candor is beautiful, that is step 2. And that is something that the world can do right now in this moment. Step 3. And I'm legitimately trying to remember because it takes me a few seconds. I didn't add that in to be funny. Step 1. Listen to our stories. Hear our voices. Step 2, courage is beautiful. Step 3, everything is a conversation, so make it one. And I will tell you how I learned about that step in my next talk. And step 4, I'm not, this is live, this is not me scripting. Step 1, this is my brain, this is my mind. I'm showing you in real life what it means to be an addict. My memory, it's gone. Step 1, listen to our stories and hear our voices. Step 2, courage is beautiful. Step 3, make it a conversation. The person that I referenced says everything is a conversation. So make stigma a conversation in your daily life. And step 4, what the hell? I'm going to let step 4 be a surprise because I know it, but I can't think of it right now. That's my brain. That's me showing you that under pressure, because I'm in front of a camera, I can't remember the 4th step, but for all you people, all you organizers at TEDx SUNY, I will share these steps with you on your stage. I will tell you in my narrative who said them. I will tell you the people in society who said them and the lessons that I learned from them during my period of sobriety. And like I said, I had no idea what's going to come from my candor. All I know is that what made me push this play button and ramble on for the last 24 minutes was a derivative of my weakness, my supposed weakness. Not because I am wise enough or arrogant enough or brazen enough to tell my story.